Happy evening to all. So welcome you all to this Learn to Read, Read to Learn session. And today among with us is Dr. Raja Govindasamy, ex-principal of Tyagaraja College, and of course all our members know about him. And he's a trainer on soft skills, and he was president of JCs for a few years, and also director, Mannar College, and we can continue like this. Welcome, sir.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir. And also with us, Sita Krishnamurthy ma'am. In fact, she takes pleasure because her student is going to give a speech about her work. Welcome, ma'am. You can unmute and speak, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It's a
Sita
pleasure
ji,
to be
good
here.
evening, Sita ji. Sita ji.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
And of course, Dr. Santosh Rajagopal, who is the one who introduced us, this wonderful speaker to us.
Great.
Thank you, sir.
So just thanks for the opportunity, and actually I'm seeing Hariny after a long time now, even though it's virtual.
Great,
I heard
sir.
her voice, but I haven't seen her a long time. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, once again, a very warm welcome. And in fact, it's a wonderful day. It's very cloudy here. I think that is how it is there everywhere. And I take this opportunity to welcome our speaker, a very young author who is living now in UK and a student of Lakshmi School, Hariny, AHANA. She is just 22 years old, and she's a writer who grew up amidst the thriving Dravidian culture and ancient temples in the city of Madurai. And in fact, her work has been published in the Words of Silence, the Intersect Journal, and the Open Culture Collective. She is fascinated with the darkness in every fairy tale, and her love for writing began many years ago with an old library copy of Enid Blyton's famous 5 and a bowl of spicy red cauliflower fries. In fact, Hariny has to explain the secret behind that. And her first book, The Dictionary of Flowers, is a short collection of the feminist poetry, prose, and illustrations. She is currently pursuing a master's degree in a creative writing from Newcastle University UK. When there is no writing for the day, she can be found lost between the pages of fresh hardcovers or intensely focused over a pot of boiling pasta. But today, she is facing this live session, and she is going to address. Welcome, Hariny, and it's all yours.
Hi. Thank you. So I would like to talk more about, give myself an introduction. So also, I can see my face like zoomed out. It's making me a bit self-conscious. Is it possible to change that?
Yeah, not a problem.
So yeah, I was a student in Lakshmi School. I was born in Madurai, like most of you here. I grew up there, and I was a student of Lakshmi School. I was there for 13 years, and yeah, I got in when I was in my nursery school, and I finished my 12th standard. I taught school, and I got into Miranda House College in Delhi University. So I went to New Delhi after my schooling, and Miranda House was and it still is the best college in the country at the moment. So I went to pursue an honors degree in BA in English honors, and I did it for 3 years. And I think around the pandemic hit, I finished my bachelor's, and it was during my time at home that I actually started writing my first book, because ironically, I know how people say that the pandemic spoiled their plans and everything. And yeah, people often say that how most of their plans were spoiled during the pandemic and everybody had a hard time. But it was the extreme opposite for me. I had the most productive time of my life during the pandemic. That's when I started writing my first book. And then I came to the UK to do my master's in creative writing in Newcastle University. I've now submitted my dissertation, and I'm working from home for a company in Canada. I'm also working in the National Museum for Children's Books in the UK, but I'm still searching for full-time job for a full-time job, and I'm also working on my second book at the moment. So yeah, that's me. So yeah, I was asked to come here, and I was asked to talk about something I really, really love, um, reading, which is something I'm obsessed with. I don't think I've met anybody in my life that is as obsessed with reading and books like I am. So when I first started reading books, I think it was because of my mother. Because when I was pretty young, I mean, even before I joined school, she was the one that first introduced me to. I still remember a Hansel and Gretel fairy tale book. I used to have it, and I used to have it for a long time, and it was torn and tattered, and I still took the book out every weekend because I wanted to read the same story over and over again. Plus, I could only read it at that age, and yeah, she got me all these Peter and Jane books, enrolled me in libraries, and she did a lot when I was young. And after that, I think I joined one of the best schools that fosters reading in the whole of India, I would say. I've met people from so many other schools and parts of the world, and I still think and I still think Lakshmi School is one of the best among all of that. And yeah, so I entered school, and school gave me the best opportunity to read. And I often say this everywhere I go about how when I live in an apartment in Madurai. So what happened was, so I used to play with a lot of other kids from different other schools. So I remember during the weekdays, all those children would be studying and having homework and everything, while Lakshmi school kids would be home trying to prepare for an assembly or reading a library book. And every other parent is just like, hey, do you have nothing to study? Does your school not give you homework and everything? But I think that's precisely why my school helped me do succeed in all the ways I did, because they gave a lot of focus in other things. And yeah, so I used to read a lot in school, but it wasn't until when I was in my fourth standard that I started that I actually fell in love with reading, and I was so obsessed by it. It was by this teacher, my English teacher, obviously, called Visalakshi ma'am. I haven't met her now, but yeah, she was the one that was a very crucial catalyst for me in my life, in my reading journey. I remember I was in Port C, I think. She took all members in our class and she took us to the library, and she handed out famous five books to all of us, saying that, hey, this is your assignment for the year. Finish reading this book and write a review. So that is when I came back home during that weekend, and my mother had fried some cauliflowers at home. It was red and beautiful, and she put them on a nice plate and she gave to me in the room. And I was just upside down reading the book and having the cauliflowers. And I remember it so well, despite me just being like 8 years old, because I think that was one of the transcending experiences I've ever had in my life, because I just completely fell in love with reading. And after that, yeah, up till 12th standard, I was reading books everywhere. To be honest, I read books all the time. I had physics, maths, biology, and chemistry classes going on in the front. I would be having my books underneath the desk. I mean, I'm pretty sure my teachers don't want me to tell that here, but I used to do that all the time, just reading underneath my desk while classes kept going on, because I was so obsessed. I couldn't wait until I could read the book again. And yeah, I never liked going to games period personally. So when those classes happened, uh, I just skipped the games classes and went to the library and hid somewhere and kept reading another book. I used to borrow books from the library by the Friday so that I could finish reading it during the weekend. And I came back to the library first thing on the Monday to buy another book which I could read during the week. So I was this obsessed. And that wasn't a time when we had Amazon or Flipkart where you could just place an order and get the book the next day. We had to actually go into, bookstores or libraries and book fairs. And I think, yeah, one of my best childhood memories is going to the Madurai book fairs and the Thamakam ground in Madurai, where they had all these amazing book fairs, and I used to go there. And my mother always says, you can buy 2 books, and I used to spend like 3-4 hours going around the same place trying to choose the best 2 books from there. And yeah, there was also a lot of scholastic book fairs held at school, which I loved a lot. um so if I have to tell you how reading has benefited me as a person and as a writer, I could keep talking about it all day, because I think a major chunk of who I am today is because of reading. Because I think reading helps you understand one main thing first. In today's world, when we have so many divisions between us than before, in terms of your gender, in terms of your sex, in terms of your class, in terms of your sexuality, and so many things. And reading a book instills within you from when you're young that it doesn't matter who you are, you're all the same and everybody is human. And I think that is something I learned a lot through books, especially when I went to Delhi and I came to the UK. I met people from varying genders, people from all walks of life, and people with different sexualities. And I know how the world isn't kind towards most of them, but it was always strange to me, and I could proudly say that I've always been a safe space for all of those people. And it's always because of books, because books tell you that you have to be kind and compassionate. And it doesn't actually tell you that, but the more and more you read, you just become that way. And I think nobody ever told me about any of this. Books did. And yeah, so I just think books first help you become a very empathetic, kind, and compassionate person. And I think that's the main reason why everybody should introduce their children to books. And secondly, I would say that, of course, this everybody knows, reading helps you improve your grammar and your sentence structures and helps you talk better. And while I understand that English isn't our native language or isn't one of the Indian languages, unfortunately, it is rampant. English is everywhere at the moment, and if you go to your college or an interview or anywhere, even for an internship, I think you're asked to talk in English, and people, I mean, I know it's sad, but people still judge you by the way you speak in English. If you're confident, you're respected. And, I understand that, because when I was in Delhi, there were people from all different states in India, and in the UK, there are people from all parts of the world, and English is your only binding language. So I think reading books helps you gain more confidence in a language that is used as the first tool for communication today. So yeah, there's that of course English help reading books helped me a lot with that. And another one I would say is, of course, books make you very creative. And I am an artist by passion and by profession. So books definitely do make you very creative, because I remember during many internships and interviews and everything, people definitely ask you if you can find a creative solution to a problem, or they don't want to know what marks you have received. Because when you go out for interviews and when you go for higher studies to universities abroad, everybody has scored the same high mark as you. So that is an environment where your marks don't matter, where all your achievements or anything at that point doesn't matter, because everybody has achieved high, everybody has scored high. So at that point, what sets you apart is how creative you are and how unique you are. And I could say that reading books and all the knowledge I've gained just by reading fiction books, fantasy, romance, young adult, crime thriller, and all of that is what set me apart during those interviews. And it's what impressed the people who interviewed me, and it's what gave me access to so many jobs and opportunities here. So yeah, there's that. And 12th standard happened. Of course, we all know what high pressure situation that is. Of course, I was studying a lot, and books were always my relief. And that's, I think, the main thing, the main reason why people should be reading books, because it's such a nice thing to do. It is a great hobby. It makes you happy. It relaxes you, and it helps me take my mind off things. It transports you to a different world. It helps you travel to things or places where you could never travel to in this lifetime. So yeah, I think books are magical. But I would be very honest, because when I went to college, I went to Miranda House in Delhi. Was the first time I had a cell phone of my own with my own internet, and it was so addictive to me that I stopped reading books, because we had Netflix, we had Amazon Prime, we had Disney Plus, Hotstar, everything. So you had basically anything you wanted on your phone. And what happened was, after a hard day at work or doing something, I just wanted to come back and watch mindless television, because it seemed to take less work than actually reading a book. So my college was during my college, I read like 3 books a year, whereas I used to read 50 books a year. So and even those 3 books that I read, it took me a lot of hard work to get through them, and I was only forcing myself to read those books. So this is what happened during my college hours. And yeah, I used to feel very guilty about it, which is why I would say that when your child says, when they're back home, they want to Netflix is just such a rampant thing in all our houses today. If they want to sit and watch that, as parents, I would strongly urge you to control their hours in which they use a streaming service or the internet, and give them a book instead. Because I know I'm 22 at the moment and I still struggle with the same thing. I know I have the sense that, yeah, they're not good. A book is going to be more beneficial to me, but it's still hard for me to control those urges. So yeah, I finished my college. I wrote fragmented poems and stories and everything. It got published in a lot of places around the world, but it wasn't an actual book yet. It was just poetry in international journals and Indian magazines and everything. And by this time, the pandemic hit, and I had to go back home. Of course, all my plans were spoiled, because I already had an admission to a master's in Newcastle University. And yeah, another thing I failed to mention is that when I went to college in Delhi, I think I talked about this incident in a recent speech at my school today. Was when people from Madurai, once you step out of Madurai, people are going to treat you really uh, not, I wouldn't say bad, but they're going to treat you like you're not equal to them. They're going to treat you like you're less than them, because they have in Delhi, of course, every person that I studied with were people like, the top scorers from Delhi schools. And when I had to compete with them, from girls in a city that is the capital of the country and has had exposure that students in Madurai might not receive, which isn't our fault, which isn't anybody else's fault. But when I went into class the first time and we had the first test, or we were competing for things, and I remember I topped class in this, and I topped class in a test, and I got selected into clubs without any interview. People saw me and directly called me into clubs. I remember girls coming up to me from Delhi and asking me, hey, you seem very talented. Where are you from? And I said, oh, I'm from Tamilnadu. And they instantly asked me, oh, are you from Chennai? Because for them, they think Chennai is Tamil Nadu because it's the metropolitan city there. And I say that, no, I'm not from Chennai. I'm from Madurai. So, and they don't know what Madurai is. They think Madurai is a remote village in some corner of Tamil Nadu. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever, think whatever you want. So I was proud to be who I am, from Madurai over there, standing and competing with everybody. And I think a sole reason for me being able to do that was, of course, my school first. I would never underestimate, and say how much Lakshmi schools helped me there. And the second one is the amount of books I've read, because books give you worldly knowledge and the ability to interact with people who might not be the same as you. So yeah, that's what happened in Delhi. It gives you the skills to compete with people who might have more exposure, um, you know, through to things that you might not have had while you were growing up. So yeah, that happened. And when I applied for my master's in the UK, I got accepted into every university that I applied to. And that was again because of how much reading and writing has helped me, and how much, of course, I am obsessed with it. I understand why some people might not be obsessed with reading the way I am, but that is still okay. I still think even if you're not obsessed, carve some time to read, and it definitely goes a long, long way in your future in helping you do things. So yeah, coming back to the timeline of where I was, it was the pandemic. I came back home, everything was spoiled. And of course, I didn't have a graduation for my bachelor's. I couldn't meet my friends. I still haven't met them. It's been 2 years. And so, yeah, it was a sad time. But then I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe you could use this time to get back to all your reading habits and, writing something. And this is something that really helped me when I was trying to read. I took down a list of, I went on Instagram, I looked at all the latest books I would like to read. I made a huge, colorful list of all the books I wanted to buy. And the moment Amazon was open, I just ordered all of them. And yeah, the lockdown helped me get back into reading like how I was once. And I remember I was also working freelance on a lot of projects at this time, so I had a lot of money saved up. I remember how my mother was frustrated that they spent thousands in all of the books that I ordered, and yeah, so that happened, and it was during this time that I met an amazing illustrator from Bangalore, and he was just saying, why don't you just write something and I would illustrate it, and we could just have it as a small passion project that came out of the lockdown, and we could just put it out into the world and give it to our friends and stuff. So that really, I didn't have anything to do. I had a master's and I didn't know when I was going to the UK. I didn't have anything else to do, so that's when I started writing my first book. My book is about it has 21 pieces of poetry and short prose and with illustrations. It has only 21 pieces because I was 21 years old at that time, and somehow I thought it was very significant because at 21, especially after being in Delhi and all the things I had experienced, I just felt like a 21-year-old young woman, was a powerful thing to be when that was the age when voices were oppressed. And as a woman in Delhi, I had experienced a lot, which I had, written about in the book. So yeah, my book, it has a lot of things about all the quirky people I've met, and the things I like doing, all the struggles I went through while I was writing, and yeah, that is just a part of the book, though. The major chunk of it focuses on the women in my life and about feminism, which I'm another thing that I'm more obsessed with, more than even reading, I would say, giving, you know, helping women out of oppression and everything. So there's like a lot of pieces about my own mother, actually, and my family, and um, the longing for home, and especially women in India. You can't, I definitely can't deny it. I come here and I look at women here, and I've also been in Delhi and I've looked at the women there, and I've been in Madurai and I've looked at the women there. And I realized how in India women were oppressed without realizing that they were being oppressed, and they were the chief tools of misogyny and everything. So it was another thing that I wrote about because I was so angry. I still am. I always am angry about the way women are treated. So yeah, that was the starting point of my first book. And when I finished writing my first book in 2 months, and the illustrator took some time for himself. And by the time I was in the UK, I came here for my master's, and it was very hard for me to find a publisher. Of course, everybody tells you the whole J.K. Rowling story, how she was rejected so many times before she found her thing. But yeah, so I couldn't find a publisher for ages. I almost gave up on it many times. It was a very hard time because I was the only one solely fighting for a passion, for a project that I believed in. Nobody It's chiefly because the circle I was in had no experience with publishing a book before. So it was me learning and failing as I went along the same path. And finally, I did end up with an amazing publisher by luck, purely by luck. Their mail went into my spam folder, and I checked it after a month to find that they were interested in the book. And the response mail when I sent back to them saying that, hey, yes, I agree to this, went into their spam folder, which they saw after half a month. So yeah, that was purely by luck. And then they found it out. They're amazing publishers in Goa, and they got my book. And the pandemic delayed it many times, but it was a wonderful, tiring, exhaustive, painful process. But I would do it over and over again. So yeah, and my book came out, and now my book is being reviewed by people such as Jerry Pinto, Ranjit Hoskott, who are award-winning authors and poets in India. And it's also being reviewed by people like Michelle Tosher and Jenna Evans Welch, who are New York Times bestselling authors. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I know that it's still just my first book. And as a part of my dissertation, I started writing dark fairy tales. That was part of my introduction, where I took Western myths like Cinderella, say Sleeping Beauty, and then I took Indian aspects of it, like, things from our life. You know how they talk about the Mohini Pisas and Madurai and everything. So I took that, I merged them into a same story, and I created my own fairy tale. So that's going to be my second book, a group of fairy tales like that. And I'm still 16,000 words into the book. I have loads more to write. So once that's done, hopefully I'm hoping to get UK publisher for the same. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. And yeah, at the moment, I think I was in a bookstore yesterday. I'm probably going to go to another bookstore today. I have a shelf there that's like filled with books, and of course, to be honest, I still have trouble with reading, especially with how much Netflix and all the streaming services have taken over our lives. I was watching a show before the speech began. Now I was watching an episode, to be honest, and I would go back to watching the same episode after. So, and I could easily pick a book instead. So I think I've reached a point where I'm trying to create a balance between everything. But I watch this one day, and I watch and I read a book. I'm like, watch this show and then read 2 books and everything. And I know I might reach someday when I could read books like how I did when I was a kid. I could just keep reading 50 books a year and feel amazed by that. But unfortunately, according to the way the world is built today, with our phones and social media and this every movie that comes out, it keeps distracting you. It's hard for us as adults to get back into the same habit, but I would still say make an effort to carve time out and to read anything you can. Doesn't have to be a book. It could be a newspaper. It could be an article on your phone. Anything really. But yeah, it really helps you relax and can take you a long way through life. But as for kids, like if any of you have kids and you're here because you wanted to see, take this back home to kids, I would just say, minimize their exposure to streaming services, and preferably no social media at all, and give them a book to read. That is going to create an amazing childhood, because as much as people say how amazing all these things are, I would just say any streaming service, say Netflix or Amazon Prime or your Instagram or Facebook or your phone, none of them are going to create a childhood as amazing as a childhood that books can create for you. So yeah, do that. And another one thing before I go, what I would like to say is that if when you choose a book for your child or for yourself, please do not have any preconceived notions as to, oh, this is the book I'm supposed to read. This book looks clever or witty, and this is what my child has to read for them to feel better, or this is what I should read. No, don't read whatever you like. If you're not sure what you like, try experimenting with a wide range of genres. If you could like fiction, you could be, I don't know, 30 or 40 and want to read children's literature, and that's perfectly okay. I still read high school literature, and I'm obsessed with all of that. So read anything you like. Poetry is still reading. Children's literature, picture books are still reading. If your child wants to read only comic books or Archie comics, let them read. That's perfectly okay. All books are books, and all reading is reading. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Uncle.
It was really wonderful. In fact, you have made some very interesting and vital points and take-home points for the parents on how and why the reading has to be developed. In fact, I would like to invite Raja Govindasamy, sir. You can just share a few points. What do you feel about? Harini, in the meantime, if you can able to share any one of the poems after Shah has finished his views.
Thank you, Hariny, for taking us through a breath of fresh air this evening, because it was a pleasure to listen to you, how you grew up. It's not only trying to write, but also trying to grow up into a young adult, and then, of course, as a full adult now at this age, with some credit for writing, and then UK publisher in the offing. I'm very happy about it, and that you could still find time to read because of several media incursions into your own life. And you're being so confessional is what makes me feel happy, because well, you used to read 50 books and now you read 3 to 4. My feeling was that whatever that you've been going through as you as you watch these movies or these short videos, etc., even that could be part of your writing. So that way you would keep writing. And there are a number of people who would love to know as to what you recommend to watch, what you recommend to go through, etc. I know you would be able to spend more time, and you could be part of the social media too. As you spoke of book fairs and also the scholastic book exhibitions in the school, it struck me because I immediately took out this book, Open a World of Possible. It's a publication of the Scholastic. It contains about 100 authors who talk about the joy of reading and real stories about the joy and power of reading. And so maybe someday Scholastic would also include yours into this collection, because there would be revision of such collections. And I look forward to seeing you speak again. And somewhere I'm also looking forward to stumble into your book. Of course, I'm still not very good in buying books from these social media platforms. So I'm eager to read you. And the way you spoke about it with all your humility is what makes me interesting. And somebody from Madurai going global is a matter of pride and pleasure for us. I wish you all the best, and thanks. I'm eager to listen to some verses of yours. Thanks.
Sir, I will arrange a copy for you, sir.
Thanks.
Sure, sir.
Thank you. We'll borrow it from you.
Yes, sir.
There you are. Let's read a bit. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. And Harini, are you ready with your pages?
Yeah, I am. I chose a poem that was actually very apt for the occasion. I wrote something about Meenakshi Amman temple because I'm so inspired by her, by the temple. Each time I go to the temple, I just love it. It's one of my favorite places in Madurai. So yeah, I wrote a poem about that. So here it goes. It's called The Fish-Eyed Queen. I remember her today as the skies above purge heavy ropes of rain. She remains shackled, dormant behind the gatehouse towers, closed in by stucco figures, painted red, striped white. My thoughts sink to the time when she ruled over our lands, renegades and pilgrim hearts. The city never saw a glory that shone and sparkled as bright as then. She slowly froze, numb to the fires from the madness that seethed around, behind garlands of pink and green, robed in the richest silks, bathed in milk and roses most supple, hidden by shadows of the millions who seek her warmth. I look at you from afar, wonder what it all meant, the stories of the Mother Queen who stood guard at the center, vowing to protect us all, now made beautiful to fit the verses of our most fabled myth, forever inscribed on the growing pages of our Dravidian life.
That's fantastic. So, in fact, I will ask Sita ma'am to say a few words about Hariny?
I was delighted with the speech, and the evening was a pleasure to me. A young girl brought up in a small town, going to Miranda College is a dream, and later Newcastle University is something which cannot be easily imagined, because in our days, I have heard about Miranda College, and it has been a dream, but then it always remained a dream, and I never accomplished it.
The Indian dream.
Yes, yes. But then here Hariny spoke about goddess Meenakshi, who is someone very special to every citizen in Madurai. Actually, she never bats her eyelid like the fish, and protects all the citizens. And being Navaratri, hearing Meenakshi, about a poem about Meenakshi was something very thrilling to me. I love the temple and I frequent it very often, but this pandemic had made it very difficult. So for 1.5 years, I haven't been to the temple. I went for the last 2 weeks, but once again, it is locked down. And then it is impossible in the Navaratri to have a glimpse of the goddess. But then the way she portrayed it, the words that she chose, the diction was beautiful. Like all emotions, she was able to bring into play. And in a short poem, I was able to fathom what she would have done in the book. And now I'm vetted to buy the book and then read it. It was amazing. And then the one thing which I take home to my grandson is about the skills that she said. And then I want to convey it to him, how differences make life, but then you accept differences, and that is life. Then reading makes you compassionate, which is very true. And then, of course, reading kindles imagination and creativity, and there is no doubt about it. And I still remember with pleasure Lakshmi School Library. And I remember a series of books which I had brought to the library. I'm not sure whether Hariny had read them. It is verses and it is called Curly V. I'm not sure whether you have read those.
Oh, I did. When we were in our 5th or 6th standard, all the students were given a Curly V book and we had to
Yes.
enact it out. I was Curly V's mother in the drama, by the way. Yeah, I remember
that's
that.
right. Because actually what happened was when I was in 2nd grade, Curly V was a cartoon which appeared in the Mail, in the Madras Mail, and it used to come in the evenings. And my grandfather used to read the verse to me. And then I used to enjoy it so much. And in December, during the Christmas season, volumes of Curly V were sold at Spencer's for 5 rupees a volume. So when the internet came, and then when I was getting a little access into it, I just wrote a small a message to the readers of Curly V saying, what would I not give to transfer the pleasure I had received from Curly V to my students? Then would you believe, if I could get the copies, of course, which I had lost over the years, then I gave it to the students. And many of the students went around clutching a book of Curly V at school, and I was delighted, and many of them enacted Curly V. So that was a kind of a thing which I have never read earlier, a story in verse and the rhyming words, which I picked up very young. So I can imagine being a voracious reader, there was so much to offer in Lakshmi School Library, and I'm sure you have devoured so many books over the years. Because one thing I share with you with all humility is, I was once a voracious reader, but I had given up that completely for the past 20 years. Now reading 2 or 3 books a year seems to be a marathon event. So that's how it goes. So all the best to you. Your poem on Goddess Meenakshi will linger in my mind forever, and I will carry it to my grave. Thank you very much. It was wonderful. Good luck. God be with you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking your time and giving a wonderful review and
I'm always free, and it's a pleasure because I remember her spelling her name with a why. And then
Yes.
I told you that, but then I don't think I've taught her personally. But
Okay.
anyway, I've heard the debates in which she took part, but then not much, because at that time I was leaving school.
Oh, fine, ma'am. Hariny, now one more thing. There is Santosh sir was mentioning about something in the Parota stalls in Madurai. What was that? You
Oh
have mentioned.
yeah, there is. I remember I wanted to. So my chief thing when I wrote this book was to show people of the West, especially about all the wonderful things we have in India. So that's something I forgot to mention before, because when I met people from Tamil Nadu in Delhi and people from India in the UK, one major thing that disappointed me a lot was how much people wanted to be the other person. Like when I met people from Tamil Nadu in Delhi, they wanted to be Delhiites. And when I met Indians in the UK, they wanted to be white themselves, because they started saying things like, oh, UK is amazing. This is amazing. I don't like India, and a lot of things like that. We know a lot of people who say it. I know all of us know people who are like that. And I hated that so much, because I am here in the UK for my own opportunities and nothing more than that. My home and heart is still with India. So,
Good.
so,
Good.
so what I wanted to do was, instead of telling people that, oh, there's all these faults in the place where I come from, I wanted to show all the amazing things that are there, all the beautiful things, and show it to people. Like, oh, you can't have a parota stall in the UK or in Delhi. There's nowhere. There's street food. There's places like that, but you can never get the pleasure you go from, hunting to stalls and eating the parota in that messy place. So yeah, I remember when my relatives often come home. They come home by like 10 p.m. and we take a car out and go and hunt around Madurai for like until 2 a.m. or something, trying to find one parota shop to sit and eat. So I think that was a beautiful experience, which I wrote about and got it illustrated. And because such things are not talked about, people think it's not cool or something, but it is. It's one of the major things and most beautiful things of our life back home in Madurai. And so I wanted to illustrate that. So yeah, that's a piece, and I would love it if you could read all of that. Yeah.
Thank you. Santosh Rajagopal sir, you can share your views. And first of all, I would like to thank you for introducing Hariny to us, and especially to this Learn to Read, Read to Learn session. Your views, sir.
Yeah, okay. So actually, I wanted to ask her a question. The journey she made from Madurai to Miranda House, the physical journey in the flight, I think we went in the same aircraft. So
Yeah.
I was traveling, I was traveling with Dhananjay, and she was traveling with her mother. And I remember talking while we were just about to get out of the aircraft also. So, but my question I wanted to ask was, having been a science student and a school topper at that, how easy or how difficult it was to let go of the usual rigmarole of science and engineering and medicine and get into literature? How easy or how difficult it was?
It wasn't easy, that's for sure. Because I don't know, somehow people in our place think that if you study well, you either have to become an engineer or a doctor. And I've never found it anywhere away from Tamil Nadu, really. I've been to, in the north, nobody cares. They ask you to do whatever you want to do. And over here, people laugh when they say that, oh, your parents ask you to choose that, or your family or society pressures you to do that.
Oh,
So,
it's there
yeah.
in Kerala. So it's there very much in Kerala. So it's not just in Tamil Nadu.
I think it's chiefly in South India though, because
Yes,
it
yes.
isn't a thing anywhere outside. So I remember when it was automatically decided that I would become a doctor, because I liked biology and I was good at it and everything. And if given a chance, I would like to do my schooling again in subjects like how people do it here. Here, students choose art, English, archaeology, and such beautiful, amazing things. If given a chance, I would drop all the science subjects I took, because our school didn't have it, but I would drop all of that and redo everything again. But yeah, so coming back to your question, yes, it was very hard, because I didn't know that I wanted to be a writer by myself. I think when I was in 10th standard, I was, I wrote the entrance exam to this amazing place that I love to hate called Akash Institute. I wrote my entrance exam there, and it was for my training there, and I hated every moment of it. And yet it was to a point where I knew that I could never be happy. If I chose to do medicine again, nothing against the profession, nothing against anything. I think doctors are amazing and they're important for the world. But I think you should only choose those fields if you know what to expect and if you're extremely passionate about it. And I knew that it wasn't for me because I was a creative person by heart and I wanted to write. So I knew it was very hard. It was initially hard convincing my parents, but it was my mother who supported me first. And it was it to be fair, it still is it still is hard for the rest of the family to be like, oh, you study well. When I go back home, still there are friends and parents of friends who say stuff like, oh, you studied well, why did you waste all of it by going and becoming doing English and writing, which is still hurtful, and I get very angry to hear, and I snap at them back. I snap back at them. But yeah, it's still hard, and I think our society has to improve a great deal on that. I had to fight a lot to reach where I reached, and I had to convince a lot of family members to do it, and which I don't think should be the case, because I think you should let your child do what they want and support them in doing what they want. And especially when I was doing, when it was right before my board exams, the pressure just peaked in my head, because everybody, including people who cleaned in Lakshmi School, the people who worked in the office, the house help we had, the domestic help we had at home, everybody in my apartment, the bus, people who drove the bus, everybody knew I was writing the board exam, and they're like, oh, Harini, we're expecting you to top school, and you're going to become an amazing doctor and everything. So everybody says that, which is a very high pressure situation, and I would never want to live through that again. So I would just say, please give a better atmosphere for your own child when they're going through all that situation, because 10th and 12th for no reason is apparently a high pressure and very stigmatized a period in people's lives in our place, especially in South India, which again, God knows why. There's no reason behind it why it should be so prioritized. But again, I would say that yeah, it was pretty hard. Yeah.
So we have with us Mangal. She wants to say something. Once again, I'll unmute her. Yes, ma'am. You can talk.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for unmuting. And it was a great session, Hariny. It was lovely knowing about you and your books. And I'm a parent in the same situation. Now my son is in his 3rd grade and facing his board exam now. And I'm the only parent saying you don't have to worry about math, JEE, and everything. World is even wider and etc. So now we strongly choose for him basic math, but every parent and every school, teachers and all, they're creating so much of awareness in us. But somehow I'm very strong that, as you say, your words are very, very inspiring. It's very true, because we have seen the world after our own experience, getting into job, engineering and stuff. Now we feel that we have missed something way behind. So your speech is exactly what the world really needs. We have to take it sportive. And I spoke to my son almost 2 hours daily on this. And he goes back to school and they get confused because the whole society is talking about it. Only engineering, only because they don't accept any other stream is okay as because the fear is all because getting you settled down in a proper financial status will take longer. But I feel getting you at the soul sticking desire what you want to do will only give you the peace inside or the love for what you're doing. No? So you will never regret your life, whatever is missed behind or not. So that's what I told my son. Never think of JEE, no math, no problem. There is still a lot of things to go ahead. He wanted to be a learning psychology, and he wanted to explore his literature also. He's very much interested in English and psychology. So I told him something that is relevant to you. Never get into these traumas. And you're exactly the same.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. You've proven it right.
What you said reminded me of another point I wanted to say. People often say that choose these professions because, you can become financially independent and faster and you can earn a lot,
True.
which is simply not true.
Correct.
I would say that because if you're really passionate about something, passion alone isn't enough. You need to work hard. I did work hard. My offers to get published, my job application, internship applications were rejected so many times. I was accepted, like I would have applied like 500 times. I would have gotten, accepted 50 times. But I remember before I left for Delhi to Miranda House, I remember one of my friend's parents coming up actually and telling me that, you know, you wasted everything, but once the only hope for you right now is an arranged marriage. When you come back, you're going, because that's the only way you can get financial money from a guy who's doing, who's an engineer or a doctor, which I really took to heart because I knew it wasn't true and I don't want a guy to support me. But the thing is, it's simply not true. I'm 22 now. I'm financially independent. I pay for my own expenses, my rent and everything. I can, support myself in one of the most expensive countries in the world, the most
Very
expensive
good.
country in the world. I'm financially independent and I'm only 22 and I followed my passion. So it's not true. There are always ways for you to work around things and work ways for you to earn and become independent. Doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy or whatever gender you choose to identify as, doesn't matter. You choose what you want to do and work hard at it. It is going to be hard, but you will be happy and you will get both financial success and success in your career.
Okay, you're a wonderful, wonderful lady. Thank you, Hariny, for this.
Govardhanan, I have a question to Hariny.
Please, sir.
Hariny, why this tagline, the Dravidian life? What fascinates you? I like that.
Because I wanted to, how my chief thing behind including the Dravidian thing was about how people always, when I was in Delhi, people always talked about the Aryan race because I know that it's just a theory of how the North and South were separated, Europeans and everything were separated, that it's not even, theoretically proved or anything. But what I wanted to write about was chiefly because of racism, because the moment you step outside and you look at I know as Indians we were colonized for 200 years by the exact same Britishers who came and told you that your skin color is bad because you're darker and being fair and white is what's attractive, is what's best. And I think Indians have had Stockholm syndrome, and as Indians, most of us are very, very uncomfortable in our own skin with our own culture, and we ourselves are the most racist towards each other. Stigmatizing people who are darker and people who are fairer and everything. And it happened especially when I went to Delhi. People look at you and they know that you're not as fair and they instantly ask if you're South Indian. And I just wanted to say that, the fact that you're dark means nothing. I felt like personally, I prefer dark skin because it's more, in my head, I think it's beautiful. So I wanted to say that, how much people discriminate against Tamilnadu, especially up in the north of India. In my own experience, what I have experienced, what I've heard people say, and how people have treated me. And when I came to the UK, I've also experienced racism here and how bad and humiliating it can be. So that's why I wanted to say that, I didn't want to say, darker skin or anything. I wanted to give us our term, and our term is Dravidians. And so I wanted to say that and say that, hey, we are amazing and I'm proud of where I'm from. So, yeah.
Thank you.
One thing is very clear, Hariny, and to all the participants, that you really give a very inspiring feeling. Yes, reading can take you to places and can make you confident, and you can identify and you can take a lot of decisions in your important decisions in your life, just like that. So thanks for inspiring to all the listeners and participants in this program. And thank you, Hariny, for taking your time. In fact, it's so early in the morning. I hope, what is the time there right now?
Oh no, it's 1 p.m. now, so it's
Oh, 1
fine.
p.m. Okay, right.
Yeah.
But still, taking your time for us and sharing your views and knowledge. Thank you so much. And I would like to request each and every participant to buy the wonderful work of Hariny, the Dictionary of Flowers, and her upcoming works also. So that is one way to, yes.
Yeah, Govind, so good evening, Hariny. Just a few questions to you, my best wishes to you, my heartfelt wishes. And I would like to know about certain things. You told from the fairy tale directly to your 22 years, in between certain things, அடுத்தடுத்து என்ன புத்தகங்கள் வாசிச்சீங்க? What are all books you read after fairy tales? And then who is your favorite poet? Who is your favorite writer? And
Oh, okay.
can you share? Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pleasure of reading.
And நான் படிச்ச புக்ஸ்னா வந்து it's like it's not educational at all. நான் படிச்சது எல்லாமே வந்து I read famous 5
And you're not alone. We are also obsessed about books. You're not alone.
that's amazing to hear. Yeah. And of course, to be honest, I used to be obsessed with books like Twilight when I was 10 years old. They're like it had vampires and romance in it, and I was just like, yeah, this is the kind of guy I also want in my life and everything. So yeah, Twilight, it's like basically um young adult books nariya padichen. Things where it was written for teenagers, has a lot of romance and drama, chick lit. um what else? I read a lot of psycho thrillers. I also read as a kid. I read everything. Library la ennalam book irukko, I read everything. Like when I go to school and before the start of the year, I go buy all the textbooks and I instantly come back home, open the English textbook and finish reading everything, and wait for till the end of the year for the teacher to come to the story I want to talk about in class. So I used to read everything, but the more now I'm older, I'm more selective about what I read. So I love graphic novels, more like comics at the moment, and I read inspiring feminist nonfiction. I still read young adult book with a lot of fantasy, vampires, and nice romance that can never happen in real life. So yeah, I read that. And my favorite poet, I think, is Ruskin Bond. Not for his poetry, but just for his general writing, because I think he's so simplistic in what he writes. Like it's not complicated at all. Like what Ruskin Bond writes, anybody can understand. You don't have to be somebody who's done a degree and who knows English so well, like, to understand what a poet writes. Ruskin Bond just strikes into you and you feel so much. So I like him. Um, and I also like Sylvia Plath. If you know, if you've heard about her, she supports women so much, and all her work is feministic. I like that. My favorite author, I think everybody is my favorite author. I really can't choose a favorite author, but um, yeah, I don't have one. The most of the books I read, I like J.K. Rowling, and I know J.K. Rowling is a pretty controversial name to bring up right now, but yeah, I like she's still my favorite author. And yeah, I really can't answer that. It's like asking, which one of that is your
Yeah,
favorite? Everything is
that's
your favorite. It's like that. Yeah.
good day. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, and my
Thank you.
best wishes to you.
Thank you so much, Uma ma'am. In fact, I have to share one thing, Harini. Today, in fact, Uma ma'am has broken her Maunavradam. And in fact,
Oh wow.
it is because, and what she said, because today I am Maunavradam, I may take part, but I may not speak. But your words are so inspiring and kindling that she has even broken. So actually, I have
Exactly.
to give a big hand to you. So,
Thank you. Thank you so
and
much. I'm honored.
she's an author of lot of books, and she's
Okay.
into various medias. And you might have heard about Behind Woods in
Oh
YouTube.
yeah, yeah. I love Behind Woods. I
She
keep
Yeah,
worked
watching
with,
the YouTube.
and
yeah, I worked with it.
the director Maniratnam.
Yeah, yeah.
So there she had a very key role in his office, and you
Wow.
you name it, a lot of magazines, newspapers, everywhere she was a sub editor or something like. She had a very key role in media, and right now she is working in Loyola College, Chennai.
Okay,
So
that's
it's a
amazing.
great pleasure, ma'am, for taking
Yeah,
part
thank you
in this
so
journey
much
again.
for the, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity to participate in this.
Thank you,
Really,
thank you,
truly
thank you.
happy and honored.
Yeah.
Hope,
And
hope to,
Hariny, you can listen to her. She had a session with us, and it is in our
Okay.
YouTube channel.
Okay,
But also,
definitely.
whenever you find time, you can listen to that.
Thank you.
I can share in the YouTube link her email ID and Instagram ID. You can directly contact her. So I would like to request everyone to
Oh, I think.
purchase her works. And Raja sir, you have something to say?
Oh, Soumya ma'am.
and also I have a request
Nothing,
of
nothing. I
Harini.
have nothing to say.
Harini,
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Harini, I have a request. Yeah, you can also get your works translated in Tamil so that you could be a bilingual writer, you know.
Yeah. But for now, I'm just expecting, like, waiting for more people to read my book in English.
Yes,
So once it
I will
reaches
revert
a,
to you.
yeah, thank you. Once it
I will
can be,
read it.
yeah.
So Soumi has raised her hand. You can speak. You can unmute and speak.
Yeah, she is my son's classmate, so in that way I know her, and I have read her poem. Like her poem was published as in the school magazine. That one she wrote. It was so beautiful. The passing out batch, as a passing out batch, her poem was actually selected because there were a lot of other poetry also, but her verse was selected by all. So I suddenly thought of it that hers was the first page poem in that year. So good, Harini. Like it's long time I haven't seen you. I've
Okay,
seen you
ma'am.
like only in your farewell, I think.
Yeah.
So great to see you, and really all the best for all
Thank you,
your
ma'am. Thank you.
endeavors, and maybe hear a lot of more achievements, and may you write loads and loads of books. So
I hope so. Thank you.
Nakshi on you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
So thank you, ma'am, for sharing your views and bringing back a beautiful green memory of Harini's poem. Harini, thank you so much for your wonderful the way you communicated things and inspired with your experiences and your suggestions and advices. I'm sure it's going to be helpful to every listener and participant, and for their children, they can copy paste whatever you have suggested, beautiful things. Thank you so much. And I would like to take time to thank Raja Govindasamy sir, Sita Krishnamurthy ma'am, Uma ma'am, Dr. Santosh Rajagopal, and each and every participants here. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harini.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Harini.